Angie floats through a few flings, but she's too smart to fall for anything permanent.
She's doing queer-coded emotional detachment before it was cool. Angie is definitely a Samantha.
Wow.
Before Samantha even existed.
This is the Marxists at the Movies podcast.
Marxists at the movies, bright and raw, breaking through the reels to rewrite the law. Workers of the world in every frame, changing the credits, rewriting the name.
Welcome to Marxists at the Movies, where it's always 1960, the bathing suits are modest, yet the sexual politics are anything but. I'm Edward Michael Francis.
And I'm also Edward Michael Francis, because apparently we've unionized under one name.
Today's episode is all about where the boys are, which, given our sexuality, is a bit confusing, but yes, we're talking about a movie.
And to be clear, we're talking about the good version from 1960, not the awful 80s remake.
Correct. The less said about WTBA 84, the better.
Yeah.
Shame on you, Lorna Love.
The full title of our article is Where the Boys Are, Bikinis, Booze, and Blueprints, written by,
Wait for it,
you guessed it, Edward Michael Francis.
Yay.
The article's already live on our Patreon. If you want to read along, annotate in rage, or just screenshot it and claim you wrote it,
Go Queen.
No judgment from us. But our lawyers...
We also have a brand new website where you can find both of our podcasts, more ways to support our work, and a healthy amount of sassiness.
But don't worry, we'll do the full plug later.
Indeed.
Right now, let's talk about bots, baby. We proudly use generative AI in many aspects of our production.
Proudly.
From scripting, to editing, to getting emotional validation at 2 a.m., all editorial decisions remain fully human-rooted in lived experience, political clarity, and revolutionary intent.
Also fully feline. Myron Rosander Francis, our tail-waving co-conspirator and resident dialectical materialist, serves as both inspiration and quality control.
Myron is the only staff member with perfect pitch and a functioning moral compass.
Cue the Stang. As always, a quick anti-spoiler warning.
Listen up.
Spoiler warnings are capitalist horse hockey.
Yep.
They're etiquette disguised as ownership, designed to make you feel like information is a limited time offer instead of a cultural inheritance.
Get over it.
If that bugs you, this probably isn't your space. Thanks for the attention.
Praise Satan and pass the popcorn. Now let's get into Where the Boys Are.
When Where the Boys Are hit theaters in 1960, it looked like standard teen fare. A quartet of Midwestern college girls bound for Fort Lauderdale, chasing boys, sun, and maybe a little trouble.
Oh.
But beneath the bikinis and beach parties, the film quietly pushed against some surprising boundaries, questioning what good girls were supposed to want, poking at class differences, and giving its characters more narrative agency than most teen movies of the time even attempted.
And not in a look at us being feminist way, it just respected them.
Quite right.
Which is kind of shocking for a movie with that title.
It also kicked off the entire spring break phenomenon. Like, this movie literally helped reinvent South Florida as a rite of passage for randy white college students. And it earned a devoted queer following in the process because, of course it did. It's gorgeous, emotionally conflicted, and ends in a ball gown.
Right? It's like the grandmother of every beach movie that came after, but with a better wardrobe and an actual moral center.
To be clear, this flick was equal parts cultural catalyst, spring break origin story, and accidental feminist manifesto that reshaped American youth culture for decades.
If it's been forgotten, it's only because its louder, dumber descendants buried it alive, and none of them ever came close to matching its wit or complexity.
It even manages to pass the Bechdel test. By the thinnest thread.
Nice.
A couple of scenes where the girls talk about college, class, or curfews instead of boys.
Not exactly radical, but for 1960, that was like doing a high dive in a pencil skirt. Let's talk about the production for a second, because in 1960, this was a real studio gamble.
Right.
Where the Boys Are was produced by Joe Pasternak and directed by Henry Levin, with a screenplay by George Wells based on Glendon Swarthout's novel.
Okay.
MGM, better known for top hats and tearjerkers, suddenly wanted a piece of that sweet, sweet youth market.
Of course.
Translation: how do we get horny college kids to give us their pocket change? It cost around $2 million to make and earned about $3.5 million at the box office. Not a smash hit, but enough to prove the spring break formula had legs.
That's called synergy. You sell the records and the beach fantasies in one go. Corporate thirst never changes.
The cast was a mix of established and fresh faces.
Tell it.
Dolores Hart as the moral compass, George Hamilton as the slick rich boy, Yvette Mimieux playing the sweet doomed romantic, Jim Hutton doing the wide-eyed goofball thing, and Paula Prentice, queen of sardonic eyebrow raises, as the sharp-tongued cynic.
Stellar.
But the real coup, Connie Francis, already a chart topper, already a cultural force.
Diva.
Without her, the movie might have vanished into the Bermuda Triangle of forgotten teen comedies, right between Beach Ball and that Elvis film where he fights a sandcastle.
She was like gravity in eyeliner. Each time the film started getting too fluffy, Connie pulled it back down to earth.
Precisely.
And then she sang.
Paula Prentice, by the way, signed a 7-year MGM contract when she took this role. At the time, she was living with actor Richard Benjamin, not married, which the studio hated.
Surprise.
MGM basically told her, you can have a career or a boyfriend, but not both in public.
Naturally.
Meanwhile, George Hamilton gave his buddy Sean Flynn, a.k.a. Errol Flynn's son, a bit part in the film.
Naturally.
And he swears that writing a question mark in the sand next to Dolores Hart was improvised. Which,
right.
Sure, Jan.
It's giving future memoir embellishment, but all right, George. Write your punctuation in the sand and your legacy in bronzer.
Either way, it worked. The film exploded.
Boom.
Hamilton became Hollywood's golden boy overnight, and the beach movie formula was born.
Bazinga.
Though none of the knockoffs ever matched the original's balance of social commentary and actual emotional weight.
We'll talk more about the pale imitators later on.
Yes, we will.
What did critics have to say about Where the Boys Are?
When this movie premiered, Variety didn't hold back. They called it, quote, a potential box office whopper, which is basically trade paper speak for this thing is going to make a pile of money.
Boffo.
And they were right. Between the location shooting, the ensemble cast, and the buzz around the title song, it was selling an entire spring break fantasy built on impossible logistics where police scanners exist purely for comic relief, and everyone changes clothes like they're on House of Style.
That fantasy clearly worked. You can almost feel the suntan oil and see the convertibles from just reading the reviews.
Roger Ebert, writing decades later in his review of the '84 remake, still took the time to single out the original.
Yay, Roger.
He said it captured, quote, a certain innocence, a certain wistful optimism about Fort Lauderdale and that idea of finding someone special who just gets you.
Awesome.
That's not nostalgia fluff. That's him saying the film bottled a mood you can't fake.
Indubitably.
Even if you weren't alive in 1960, you can watch this and feel exactly what he's talking about.
Yeah, that's the magic trick. It's a time capsule you can still step into.
Yep.
No DeLorean required.
And Noelle Murray over at the AV Club nailed why it still plays so well.
Yeah?
The women aren't just boy-crazy caricatures. He called them, quote, smart and pleasant, and said that the motel room scenes of them talking were more touching than the heartbreaks.
Quite right.
That's a huge part of why the movie holds up. It respects its female characters in a genre that usually didn't.
Preach.
Combine that with a very fresh 86% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Wow.
And you've got proof the love for this one hasn't faded.
That's the test, isn't it? 60 years from now, will anyone give a shit about whatever spring break trash hits theaters this summer?
Think about it.
I mean, nobody's out here revisiting From Justin to Kelly or whatever that sunburned nightmare was on MTV Spring Break, are they?
Nope.
In 60 years, will we remember the white boy dreadlocked fever dream that was Jesse Camp? This one passed.
It did.
Most won't. Before Where the Boys Are, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, was a sleepy southern resort town with a few college kids wandering through in March.
What happened?
But 1960s America was having a full-blown identity crisis. Post-war affluence had created the first true American teenager.
Totally.
Complete with disposable income, a record collection, and a desperate need to escape parental supervision.
Ah, yes, the sacred trinity of rebellion. Jukeboxes, Johnny Walker, and pretending you're not still on your parents' insurance.
By the late 50s, the media had caught on. Life, Time, Look, they all started running stories about this annual migration of hormone-fueled college kids heading south.
Reading the room.
One co-ed summed it up in a quote that would echo forever.
Yeah.
This is where the boys are. And boom.
Boom.
A novel, a movie, a phenomenon.
And Florida, being Florida, looked at that mess and said, yeah, we can monetize that.
Yes, they did.
Cheap motels, warm weather, and drinking laws enforced by nobody? That's a brand.
Local governments knew exactly what they were doing. They wanted that spring break money, even if it meant letting things slide. Underage drinking? Fine. Sexual chaos? Manageable. As long as the hotel rooms were full.
Quite.
The result? A $120 million seasonal industry.
Damn.
From a few hundred college students to hundreds of thousands flooding Florida every March like palm-colored locusts.
And most of them were trying to get laid in the Howard Johnson's parking lot. America, baby.
Meanwhile, the motion picture production code was starting to lose its grip.
Very true.
Movies were slipping in more adult themes, more sexual honesty, more real tension.
Indeed.
Where the Boys Are hit the perfect moment.
Which was?
Modern enough to flirt with the edges of propriety, but still tame enough to sneak past the censors.
It's like your friend who goes to the protest in full glam and then ends up on the news for local activism with a modest neckline. 4 girls, Merritt, Melanie, Tuggle, and Angie, ditched snowy Penmore University and motor to Fort Lauderdale for spring break. Each of them represents a different version of womanhood under 1960s patriarchy.
Talk to me.
Merritt's the intellectual skeptic who defends premarital sex in a classroom speech.
Legend.
Tuggle's tall, quirky, and weirdly earnest about marriage. Angie, played by Connie Francis, is funny, grounded, and understands the spring break social contract better than anyone.
Angie shows up already wise to the game.
Precisely.
While the other girls go to pieces, she stays cool and keeps her center.
Once they hit the beach, the boys come calling and the gender politics hit hard. Merritt falls for Ryder, a guy who sounds progressive, but turns out to be just another Ivy League predator in a button-down. She walks away. Tuggle meets T.V. Thompson, who's actually sweet, and they get engaged. Basically the film's one traditional win.
King.
Angie floats through a few flings, but she's too smart to fall for anything permanent.
She's doing queer-coded emotional detachment before it was cool. Angie is definitely a Samantha.
Wow.
Before Samantha even existed.
The darkest arc, however, belongs to Melanie,
Yes.
who's manipulated by Franklin, a rich prep school sociopath.
Ugh.
He gets what he wants and disappears.
Typical.
Devastated, she walks into traffic in an implied suicide attempt.
What?
She survives, and the other girls rally around her in the hospital. A moment of female solidarity that was genuinely radical in 1960.
Nice.
The film ends not with celebration. It ends with 4 women staring down adulthood in a rigged world, realizing that the guys might be gone, but each other is still there.
And we'll be right back.
Each flickers with a revolutionary beam. The heroes rise from the factory floor, challenging the scripts and demanding more.
Welcome back. Merritt is the film's moral center, and she earns that title.
Quite right.
Her opening speech defending women's right to have sex without shame is bold. But what makes it radical is how the film actually lets her back it up.
Go, girl.
When Ryder turns out to be a performative feminist with a trust fund, she chooses to walk.
Icon.
That moment It's a refusal to bend her values for a man's approval.
She sees through performative male feminism before it was a Tumblr tag. That's prophecy, Daddy-O.
And she's not alone. Melanie represents the naive hope that patriarchy sells to girls. Be nice. Be pure. Prince Charming will reward you.
Of course.
Instead, she gets assaulted and discarded. But the film doesn't shame her. It supports her. That solidarity, especially for the decade, was quietly revolutionary.
No slut shaming, no blame.
Nada.
Just her friends saying, we're here.
Precisely.
You didn't see that kind of grace for women on screen. Not then. Not even today, really.
Tuggle might get the biggest laughs, but what she really wants is weird love. The kind that doesn't ask her to change.
Right.
Her happy ending with TV works because it gives her just that.
And Angie, Dark Lord bless her, brings the working class realness. Connie Francis gives her dignity without needing to explain herself.
Never.
She just is.
Together, these four map the impossible terrain of being a woman in mid-century America.
Truth.
Each walking the tightrope between authenticity and acceptability.
And now, the moment I know we've both been waiting for.
Hell yes.
We've already talked about Connie Francis's role in this film, but with her passing on July 16th, 2025, we have to pause and give her the tribute she earned.
Roses.
Connie Francis defined pop culture the way Beehive hairspray defined the 60s. Loud, lasting, and impossible to ignore.
Tell it.
First woman to hit #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. 40 million records sold before she turned 25.
Wow.
But the numbers don't tell you what her voice did to people.
Right? That voice didn't sing at you. It folded you in like the cheese, David. Like she could hit every note, but somehow still sound like she was breaking your heart from inside your own ribs.
She was a survivor, period. Born Concetta Rose Maria Francanero to Italian immigrants, chewed up by the industry, devastated by a violent assault in 1974 that ended her career for years. And she came back anyway. Because that's what survivors do.
Yep.
And when she sang Where the Boys Are,
Classic.
that was about displacement and the need to find where you fit.
Exactly.
Which is why that song stuck in people's souls like lime jello salad cradling shredded onions and mayo.
Stop. I'm gonna be sick. That's why she hit so hard with queer audiences, right?
Right?
She got what it meant to put on the costume and survive. Vulnerability with armor.
Exactly. Connie wasn't just technically brilliant, though, let's be clear, she recorded in 12 languages and charted in dozens of countries.
12? Wow.
She also knew how to take fluff pop songs and inject them with real emotional truth.
Quite right.
Songs like Stupid Cupid or Who's Sorry Now should have been throwaway bubblegum, but when Connie sang them, they felt lived in.
So much. She survived the decade like a bouffant in a hurricane. Still standing, still smiling, handing you heartbreak in a sundae glass with a wink and a croon.
And then, just months before she passed, something wild happened.
What happened?
A forgotten B-side from 1962, Pretty Little Baby, blew up on TikTok.
Yes.
17 million videos, 27 billion views.
With a B.
She charted again at 87. She lived to see a whole new generation rediscover her voice and fall in love with it. Stupid Cupid missed the mark for years, but he finally hit Gen Z.
The internet giveth, and for once, it gave something back to someone who deserved it.
Frances carved her songs into the culture. She turned bubblegum into bloodletting, gave voice to the silenced, and made heartache feel like a national anthem.
Amazing.
Rest in power, Connie.
Where the Boys Are didn't just launch a million twisting teens. It unleashed a full-blown beach monster, stitched together from Bermuda shorts, bongos, and moral panic. Within 3 years, Hollywood is cranking out beach movies like fast food. The Beach Party series with Frankie Avalon and Annette Funicello took everything subversive about the original and bleached it whiter than Malibu sand.
Exactly. The studio execs looked at a film that tackled sexual politics, class, and consent and said, let's do that, but make it about nothing. Like a 1960s Seinfeld. No hugging, no learning, just abs, undertow, and board wax.
Annette wasn't even allowed to show her navel.
Really?
Meanwhile, the emotional centerpiece of Where the Boys Are was a literal suicide attempt. It's whiplash. What started as social commentary got repackaged as throwaway capitalism.
They didn't just water down the themes, they erased the friendships like the FBI erased JFK. Allegedly. No shade, FBI. We love the TikTok shop.
Girls who once held each other up got turned into rivals chasing surfer boys, while the soundtrack drowned on like Slim Whitman covering surf rock and yodel.
By 1967, we've reached Catalina Caper, featuring a visibly stoned Little Richard singing Scuba Party, which is certainly not about going down, while teenagers thrash around the pool like the trippy cartoon fish from the title sequence. MST3K didn't discover this movie, it washed up on their shore in a bottle labeled Help.
And of course, thank you to Mystery Science alum Frank Conniff for rediscovering this fever dream for season 2 and then immortalizing it in his book, 25 Mystery Science Theater 3000 Films That Changed My Life in No Way Whatsoever.
Read it.
Now available on Amazon.
It's the classic Hollywood move. Take something bold, strip out the meaning, and crank out knockoffs until the genre dies of shame and heat stroke.
They copied the vibe, but missed the message. Influence without understanding is just karaoke.
Oof. And speaking of MST, it's commercial sign.
Yay.
If you're enjoying the show and want to help keep Cinemarch Media going, head over to patreon.com/CinemarchMedia or www.cinemarchmedia.com.
That's where you'll find both of our podcasts, The Marching Revolution and Marxists at the Movies, along with 2 support tiers.
The $6 tier gets you early access to articles and news.
And the $10 tier includes that, plus early access to audio episodes and exclusive bonus content.
Both tiers come with surprise cameos from Myron the Cat, who may or may not be plotting a velvet pawed uprising as we speak.
He believes in land reform and second breakfast. This film absolutely earns its place in our canon.
Definitely.
It's an accidental class critique disguised as a beach party. Watch how these girls are constantly negotiating their value through male attention. Every glance, every giggle, every accidental brush of the arm becomes unpaid advertising.
Truth.
They're performing femininity as a commodity and being told it's just having fun.
And the location isn't neutral either. Fort Lauderdale is a capitalist machine.
Bingo.
Youth culture gets branded, sold, and devoured. The town became an economy of exploitation because of this movie.
Right.
Like if Hooters franchised an entire city and every teenager got scheduled for a split shift.
Exactly. Melanie's story breaks the mold. She's not punished by the script for being assaulted. The man is the problem, not her choices.
Totally.
Her friends show solidarity instead of shame. That alone makes this film an outlier in 1960.
And the male characters aren't random bad apples.
What are they?
Ryder is liberalism with a leash. He offers freedom, but only if he stays in control. TV's the rare supportive partner, but he's an exception.
King.
Franklin,
Blech.
that's patriarchy with the mask off. He's basically Don Draper without the pitch beating and fewer lucky strikes.
More mechanism than villain. Each one's a cog in the system that decides what women are worth and how that worth gets extracted.
Cultural critic Camille Paglia,
What?
yes, that Camille Paglia,
Crazy.
has praised Where the Boys Are as one of the most honest depiction of courtship ever put on film.
Wow.
Saying it still speaks directly to our time.
She points out that the date rape subplot is brilliantly done because it shows step by step how Melanie's small misjudgments, leaving her friends, misreading intentions, lead to isolation.
Exactly.
For Paglia, it's proof the film understood courtship as a dangerous, subliminally coded game women had to navigate to survive.
And get this, The original novel had a subplot where students raised money to send arms to Fidel Castro's revolution in Cuba.
That was cut by Joe Pasternak. He said politics, quote, does not belong in entertainment, arguing that the only revolution these youngsters should be involved in was their personal revolution.
Oh, and that opening narration? That was Paul Frees, the same guy who voices half of Disneyland. If you've heard The Haunted Mansion or Pirates of the Caribbean, you've heard him.
Which means every time you watch this movie, it's basically being introduced by a ghost host. You're welcome.
Music-wise, Connie Francis didn't just give us the title track. Where the Boys Are hit number 4 in the US and became her signature song. She also sings Turn on the Sunshine in the film, another Neil Sedaka, Howard Greenfield number.
And because MGM was apparently asleep at the wheel, there was never an official soundtrack album. Just singles floating out there, which is criminal given how iconic that title song became.
So, what's the verdict?
4 out of 5 hammers and sickles. Why not 5? Because male desire still drives the plot even as the film critiques it. And because this is ultimately a woman's story about their friendships, their trauma, their choices, but it was written and produced entirely by men.
Of course.
Still, the critique is honest, sharp, and decades ahead of its time.
If you're interested in another recent perspective on Where the Boys Are, we recommend Ashley Burton's YouTube review.
Yes.
She brings warmth, sincerity, and a great eye for detail.
Yeah, her tribute to Connie Francis is genuinely moving.
It is.
An insightful, thoughtful first-time watch. What did we learn today?
That spring break was invented by accident and somehow survived Catalina Caper.
That Connie Francis could out-sing Heartbreak itself and still hit all 12 languages on the way down.
That if a man says he supports your sexual freedom, check his hands. They're probably already unbuckling something.
And that nothing says feminist solidarity like walking away from Ryder's fake question mark.
But seriously, Where the Boys Are matters because it dared to say girls are complicated, that friendship is stronger than fantasy,
Right.
and that trauma isn't the end of the story.
Oh?
It's the part where people show up and care.
It gave us 4 young women walking the tightrope between freedom and approval. It took them seriously. It gave us Connie. It gave us truth. And it gave us a quiet revolution in a yellow polka dot bikini.
We appreciate your support. Check out patreon.com/Cinemarchmedia.
Or visit www.cinemarchmedia.com to browse all our work, including our sister podcast, The Marching Revolution.
Yay!
We're building a home for leftist media nerds, one soundtrack and one subtext at a time. Visit today.
This is Marxists at the Movies. R.I.P. Connie Francis.
You'll always be where the legends are.
Yes.
Immortal in film and song. And not that we're biased, but your last name is pretty groovy too.
Bye.
Scene opens, white lights dim down low.
Thank you for listening to the Marxists at the Movies podcast.
Cinema whispers
Don't forget to
where
like and
truths
comment.
can grow. From shadows deep and screens ignite, the proletariat comes alive tonight. Marxists at the movies, bright and raw, breaking through the reels to rewrite the law. Workers of the world in every frame, changing the credits, rewriting the
Copyright 2025, Cinemarch Media.